nice and easy for the end. A little bit about communication and engagement and talking, because I guess we do a lot of engagement also during this conference, and we learn from each other. So I just want to give you a little bit of a maybe technical engagement, technical background, and also to spread some ideas about the possibilities that we had during the EU-funded project Push It, and that you maybe can adapt to your own projects. So first of all, there are always terms flying around when we talk about communication, and especially in EU projects, you have to quite differentiate between them. So on the one hand, there is dissemination. And dissemination basically means it's a one-way sharing of results. You can read this later in the records. And then there's communication. And we communicate a lot because it is two-way dialogue to explain and to contextualize science or topics, technologies. And then there is engagement. And engagement is an active involvement of stakeholders, can be really different stakeholders in shaping research or in shaping projects. Here we go. So just a few examples. Of course, dissemination is if you publish something, then communication could be webinars for Q&A session, because there you have a two-way way of communication, or a poster session. And then engagement is you have to be maybe a little bit more creative. So have you ever heard of citizen science projects? Can work quite well. Or World Coffee sessions. And also a bit more in the professional context, it can be advisory boards that shape decision-making. Now to the Push It project, Andres already introduced. So we are responsible for the Bochum side, and how is the communication, dissemination, engagement topic sorted out in the Push It project. So dissemination and communication is one work package, and then engagement is another one. So we have different experts, and we have a huge support from social science experts that are in the consortium, because I mean, I'm a hydrogeologist, but now I'm doing communication. So it's really important to have the exchange and to talk to each other and to learn from each other, because every site is responsible for their own activities. And just maybe interesting for future projects, we track all our activities in a tracker. So at the end of the project, that we really have an overview and that we can have a scientific evaluation of what was done. Yeah. Just quick reminder, Push It project, we have these flooded galleries. We want to install an MTES system, and currently we are drilling. So how do we inform our stakeholders about this? First of all, we need to figure out who are our stakeholders. And apologies, it's a bit small, but you can see the stakeholder map. So we, on the one side, there's the interest to the project development. And then on the other side is the influence. And then you can see in green is, for example, the local residents. They are there and they are maybe interested, maybe not so much interested, because we are on an industrial site. But then, for example, in red, these are the authorities, and they have a high interest, and they're also hugely involved. So it's important at the beginning to map this out and to be aware who you deal with and how you have to address your information and your questions. And then we made categories, with conflict potential and the strategy we want to use to approach these different stakeholders. So it's quite important to think about this right at the beginning of the project, or even before, because then you know how to deal with different people. All right, so just to give you a few examples about dissemination and communication, obviously presentations at national and international conferences. I'm here today. Then also quite important if the conference has a conference proceeding, to publish there, because this is usually much easier than to write a big scientific article for a peer-reviewed journal. But a lot of people read conference proceedings. So this is a good way of dissemination, but also magazine articles. Just to give you an example, we published an article in the German Drillers magazine about in our case, the drilling technology and the advancements. And this is another target group, because there you don't have to be super scientific, but there you really have to go into the technical details that are relevant for the people that work in the field or for the company owners, because they don't want to read some differential equations, they really want to read how it's done. Then we think LinkedIn is also quite a powerful tool to share content and to make it a bit interesting and maybe sometimes a bit flashy. And there's a few hints that you need to take care of, like, for example, working with hashtags and to link your different institutions. But yeah, just it looks cool, but it's not super simple. And then we also thought about, okay, what can we do for the local residents that walk past our drilling site? And as I said, it's in an industrial area, but we have a pathway behind in the forest, and a lot of dog walkers are there, sometimes with the children. So we thought, okay, let's put 2 fence banners around the fence and the drilling site so they can see the drill rig. But we have one more general informational for adults, which is this one here. And we had a catchy phrase, Wärme aus den Pit, which means like heat from the pit, like a bit more informal. And then we also made a children's banner with some interactive exercises, just also to engage the younger generation and make them interested in a project that is happening, because often this information are prepared for adults, but kids also should learn, right? Engagement, just a few points to mention. So we were very closely cooperating with the university there and always dragging the students to our drilling site. And we also had tours with the public. And now in the next drilling episode, we will also have tours again with the public. And a key point there is, how do you find the people, or how do you advertise for these tours? Because this is not so easy. Back in the day, you had one local newspaper, but this is not the case anymore. So you need to think, okay, should I now publish something in the local newspaper, or should I go like an online media, like the local Facebook group, or should there maybe be a poster in the tram, in the bus? So there are different ways, and it's not so easy to really bring the public to your tours and to find a way to advertise for this. Then we had workshops. We talked to the mining associations, because they are the people that make decisions, right? And these are also the mine owners from other mines. And we need to tell them that MTES or mine water geothermal is a technology, and that they have to hear about it. And also quite important are startup events. And I think this is something we especially as researchers, this is not our bubble, because investors, and they walk around in fancy suits, and it's like, you speak a different language. But from research projects, there are sometimes really good ideas that have the potential to transform into a startup. So it's good already to talk to investors and to be in this bubble. And then one of my projects that is in my heart, we made a little children's book. It's called Tauchfahrt ins Bergwerk, in English, like Dive into the Mine. And we will go to schools and kindergartens in our former mining area and tell them how the legacy of the former coal mines is now transferred into something new. And then I have something really interesting here for you. And this is the engagement catalog. And this catalog was developed in the entire consortium, especially from our social science colleagues from the UK. And you can download this catalog for free. You can also scan this later. And it's a really, really great resource with lots and lots of crazy engagement ideas, like baking some layered cake and having like a cutout drill rig as a 3D model. So that's quite nice. And just for you and your future projects, a good resource for ideas. And sometimes maybe you just need a catchy phrase at the beginning or at the end of a presentation. And this is the one we are using. Thanks.